The amount of things today that have happened that I'm just like, what? Like, why? What? Um, First, actually, these are two very recent things. They're not that big of a deal, not that much. So basically, today I just went to church, and then I had a few errands to run. So I went to the same place I went last week. So to speak, yeah. And I met someone there who works at this really cool place, really really neat. Have the connection there now. If I need to get a job, I'll be hitting them up. As in, I need to get a job, so I'll be hitting them up. Um, at least have options, even if I don't go with it. And then, um, it's so fresh in my mind because I just had this happen, and now I'm sitting in the parking lot of Walmart because I need to go grab something from in there. This is the weirdest thing I've ever had happen to me. Well, maybe not weirdest. This dude, I think it was a child. I honestly couldn't tell if it was a little boy or a little girl, like probably 14 years old. I don't really know. They're sitting in their front seat, right? The passenger side of the front seat. I'm just like, they're staring at me, and I'm like, do I know this person? Like, that's the only question is, like, do I know this person? Why are they staring at me? Is the second question. And the third question is, when they pulled away, why did they turn, look at me, make eye contact, and wink? And I know for a fact they just did that to make me uncomfortable. I know for a fact they did that just to bug me because they went and turned to like their dad or whoever and like joke about it, and I'm just here like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? Oh, someone's car sounds bad. And then another thing that was like just what the crap was like, there's this dude that I saw at the coffee shop last week, like the day I was at the women's conference, and I was in Brioso, I think is the name of the coffee shop, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to concentrate and getting my stuff done, reading a book or something, and this guy and his mother, like this guy is so attractive, and the way he was like talking to his mom was like very attractive, and I was very distracted by it, and it's okay. Sometimes you just like, you look at someone, you're like, oh shoot, and then you just keep working. That's what it was. And I was walking today back from getting my lunch, and I was crossing the Dublin Bridge, the Dublin Bridge, and no joke, this guy and his mom were right in front of me again, and I was just like, how do I handle this? And I didn't do anything, you know what I mean? Like, I just stayed in my lane, and I didn't want to stare, but I was just so confused why he was there, and I had already seen him we live in the same city, of course you're gonna run into people. I was not expecting it. So if I was a more confident person, maybe I would have just said, like, I don't know, what do you say to, I don't really know. That would be really weird to just compliment someone out of the blue like that. I don't know. Anyway, there was nothing to say to him, so I didn't say anything. I just gave them space, and I was like, I'm just gonna go sit down for a little bit until they go around the corner, and then I'll go back to walking. And that's what happened. So this has been a very weird afternoon. I'm also definitely melting all the frozen fruit that I got. It's been a while since I bought it now, so I have to run in really fast and get these things done, and then I will be back at school working on my project the rest of the day. But just thought I'd update you because I'm so confused. I'm just confused. Why do these things happen? I don't know. I don't understand. But people are weird and life is good. So I'll catch you guys later. Good morning, it's Tuesday. I was thinking about this yesterday because I've been listening to podcasts while I'm working on my project. And they're talking about truth, right? It's this podcast called, wait, what is it? The Last Archive, right? So it's talking about what truth is and how we've kind of changed our perspective on what counts as information and what counts as data and internet and all that, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that she finished on one of the last episodes
and the second season was about how we've kind of come to doubt a lot of things and how we come to like criticize a lot of things, from like hypnotizing people to like believing that there were people on the moon, like all these conspiracy theories people have, and like the appeal of conspiracy theories and why people are gravitating toward those. And the like last episode of that season talked about Rush Limbaugh a lot, and it was a little bit of like I think a little bit of like a culture shock thing for me, because like I have grown up and Rush Limbaugh's voice has literally been like constant in the back of my like life since as long as I can remember, until I left for college, because that's also the reason I read the newspaper, actually, is because I realized I still want to know what's going on in the world. I just don't want to be told what to think. And I wanted to find something that I could read for myself and take my time and process it and reach my own conclusions. And the nice thing about reading is that you can read as much or as little as you want, and you can follow your own pace. And there's no vocal inflections to, because if you're listening to someone talking about something, especially if they're just giving their opinion, you're just being told how to think about it, not just what it is. And yeah, there can be some tone in wording, and being able to recognize that is important too, but having a more neutral stance on information is so important for actually learning and actually being able to form your own opinion. Not just ditto, But yeah, I think I'm still processing it, because like literally as long as I can remember, he had a name for when kids were born like listening to his stuff. There's a name for it, but I don't remember what it is now. Yeah. Really interesting time. I was surprised, but it's okay.
Okay, so I'm back at Walmart because I ran out of thread and I needed to get some more. Fortunately, it's right across the street from me. Honestly, if any other store was closer, I'd go there too. But I don't know why that was necessary. I'm a little tired. I've been sewing all day, sewing all week since last week. But I don't usually listen to true crime, and I've talked about that on here. I think I had a full like hour-long video I filmed of myself talking about why I avoid consuming true crime content, because it's not healthy for me personally, especially given my history with my family, my history with, just in general. I think I need to have some level of trust in the 50% of the population that is male, and that was pretty destroyed by listening to true crime. Anyway, not to say that women aren't also doing those things, it just tends to be women being the victims most of the time. Typical story is women are the victims. So, but randomly today, as I was sewing, I was like, dang, I want to listen to a podcast, like get things going, get work done. So I pull up my Spotify app, and next to the little podcast button is specifically true crime. And I'm like, okay, I haven't in a long time. So I click on it, and one of the like recommended episodes was from the only person I've listened to that does true crime, which is Rotten Mango. So love her, good stuff. How she talks about true crime is usually for me a more like, not necessarily, it just sounds like you're talking to a friend, and you're hearing them tell you about a story that they heard, rather than it feeling more like a weird court case analysis, which is how they can come across sometimes, or even like over dramatizing or like acting out the stories. I don't like that. I would rather just like hear about an article you read or hear about something you read and then like have that kind of relationship to it. Although still not always helpful. And for me, it did get to be too much over the summer. But my main point in talking about this is that I saw the episode that was recommended, and it was one I've been curious about for a long time. And I'm not going to go into depth because, we're trying to not focus on all the terrible things in the world. That's not what this is about. This is not the place for this kind of conversation. But I'm going to briefly say, like, I was reading about this a long time ago, I guess over last summer, because one of my favorite filmmakers is Cecilia Condit, the amazing artist behind multiple short films that I have really enjoyed, and just in like, I will say they're very weird, so like you have to be mentally prepared. Actually, you don't have to be, because I think it's almost better if you're caught off edge. But Cecilia Condit was the mind behind Possibly in Michigan, behind what are some other ones? Beneath the Skin, Not a Jealous Bone. Those are all short films. You can find them on YouTube. And they Possibly in Michigan blew up after getting a clip from it put into a TikTok, and of course from there people were like, what the crap is this, you know? So there's this like insane little cult following she has, and that's not quite how I found out about her, but that's kind of how I found out about her. And I just felt this deep like understanding, you know, like connection to, I understood that she was not just making things that were uncomfortable for the sake of making them uncomfortable, right? She is making things that feel authentic. Like, it felt so authentic. And although they're uncomfortable, like, you can tell she's not just doing it for effect, right? She's not just spinning things up to make you uncomfortable. Like, she's writing from stories that her friends have told her. Like, possibly in Michigan is like an amalgam. That's a fancy word for mushed things together. I don't know why I always use that. It was used enough times in like a movie and stuff I saw that like it's in my brain. So it's like an amalgam of a bunch of stories that her friends have told her and her own life experiences, but she wrote it in a way that gives it a better ending, gives it a fairy tale ending. And you know, it's obviously not it's not true, right? Like, that ending isn't true, and the reality is usually that the women would die in the end, in the way that it was shown they fought out of it. Like, that's rewriting the ending, and I just love that subversion of the narrative, of the trope that we see so much in stories that are told. And I think it's necessary, you know, I think it's important. Although maybe not a permanent answer, it's definitely better than, it's more interesting at least than just, you know, letting things be. So I feel like I had a point, but I kind of lost track of it a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so Cecilia Condit, I've talked about her for a little bit now, but part of the reason why her stories are so very, very authentic and ring true as far as her views on, you know, those really difficult events, and also like just her crazy like honesty and not giving the right answer, you know, like she says things in a way that aren't what you would expect to say when these things happen, but it's what humans would actually say. So her authenticity, especially you can see this in Beneath the Skin, she's literally just speaking. She's changed a few details, but she's just speaking like what it was like to have dated the person that was the main not protagonist, that's not the word, the main focus of the episode I listened to today, which was the unicorn killer. And I was really like, I don't know, it's crazy how much you can relate to like the victims in those stories, especially as like a young woman who, I think especially in that last like relationship I was in, struggling a lot with my own self-esteem and my own self-worth. And if I met someone like that, I would have probably reacted the way that the girl did. And the ways in which people have so much power in just being like a charismatic kind of person, they have so much power to set, like, you kind of overcome people's discomfort with you because you're a nice person that people can get along with, you know? And it's crazy. Like, I won't talk about it too much, but it was really like interesting and like cool to, not cool, that's not the word at all for this. I've been grateful for the fact that I haven't been in a relationship like that, and the desire to stay very, like, keep my standards very high for myself, right? Like, if I date someone, I have to feel safe with them. I have to, right? And I don't want it to be something that I'm, you know, stifling any part of myself to be comfortable with them and not comfortable, you know, keep them comfortable. And there's just like, it was interesting in that I think I see myself differently as far as like what a relationship would look like. Like, I definitely need it to be that's such a weird takeaway from listening to like a true crime podcast. I don't want my relationship to be with someone like that. But it's like, that was so much like building up to that point as well. Like, it's not an overnight thing, and you shouldn't ignore big problems going into things. this isn't as like not motivational, but isn't as like helpful as I thought it would be, but it's just to say like I think this is an important thing to be aware of, that there are people that are legitimately not growing in a helpful, healing, like productive way for society, and it's good to have discernment to recognize when someone feels really dark, when someone feels really off, and not to ignore that or gaslight yourself. I don't think that's the right word. Like not tell yourself it's okay because whatever XYZ. Like that's not a reason to stay, you know. But anyway, just more content with the fact that I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I'm vibing. We're just good. Yeah. So rewatched a couple of her videos too today because I was like, now that I see more of her context, where she's coming from, like how does that change how I view her art a little bit? And I think it's deepened. I think it's deepened the understanding of it, and also just an appreciation of how she's able to bring lightness into such heavy topics. I think that's what sets her work apart, and that's what makes it so incredibly rare, is that she does bring lightness out of so much darkness. People are able to watch it and relate to it and laugh with it because, you know, as much as we're able to be like, oh, you know, that would never happen to me, it's like, no, like, if it's another human being, like, that's me, you know? If it's another woman, that's me, right? Like, and I was gonna read it earlier, but there was a quote that someone said, and that they said related to a lot of Cecilia Condit's work. It's that whether a woman were somehow always already dead, or conversely had somehow not yet begun to exist, it's like there is this internal like I shouldn't be here that I feel a lot with. And I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or if it's just because it's this phase of life. It's like this sense of, because I don't fit the exact role that I'm expected to play, it's like I feel out of place. I don't really know what that is. It just feels weird. I don't like it. It's not comfortable. I don't know if anyone else feels that way sometimes. Other times it's great. Other times it's like, wow, I'm exactly who I was made to be, and I'm chilling and I'm vibing. Like, but then other times it's like being a woman in a certain circumstance, it just feels so like, wow, having the opinion that I have is wrong, right? Or like having a desire to be in leadership or to be successful feels wrong because it's harder to see that model than some people, and it's harder to see that as something that, like, I didn't realize how conservative Cedarville is. I think that's a light way to say it. It didn't quite sink in just how much, like, there's only one version of a person that's acceptable in that environment, in some Christian environments. Not all at all, but in some Christian environments there's only a certain few that are like acceptable. And I'm learning more stories about people that have been really failed by Cedarville, failed by the church, and it can feel really, really discouraging. And I think the nice thing about taking a stance, not necessarily the way that Cecilia Condit does, but taking the stance of almost making it into something you have control over because you get to tell the story. Women are often the ones silenced in multiple aspects, whether that's from fear of rejection or fear of facing what really happened or fear of even hurting the guy that did it in a way because you actually care about them. Women are often silenced when they're present, like when they're physically present, and allowed to speak when they're not. And I think that's really a shame. And that's what I've been thinking a lot lately, is that, like, it takes being anonymous, it takes being invisible for us to be able to say something meaningful. And it's harder when you're physically there, and harder when you're physically, like, present. and physically visible to be heard. And I think that's a shame. Anyway, this is really uplifting and encouraging. But no, for real, I think the world is so capable of growing past this, you know? I think that we've already grown so much, even since Cecilia Condit's, like, first couple of films, or since I was reading Audre Lorde at least last week, I don't remember when I finished, but reading all of her things and how much we've grown since then, as far as accepting women to be even in design roles, let's say, for instance, or getting more higher leadership positions, CEOs, all of that, and even outside of, like, the financial, like, job sphere, just, like, being more respected in general. And there are always horrible places and horrible things going on where there's not progress being made, but I think on the whole we've really come a long way, and that can be encouraging. Like, it should be encouraging, but that doesn't mean we're done, you know? Doesn't mean that it's finished. And I think if we can find a way to find lightness in so much heaviness, because it wasn't our burden to bear, it wasn't our price to pay. If we can find lightness in it, then I think that gives us back a little bit of freedom and ownership, not only of our lives but of our own pain, you know? They say women are born with pain built in, and I think that's fairly true, but I think if we can find lightness in it, if we can find joy in it, then I think that's progress too. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to sewing, back to chilling, back to, I guess, make dinner and take a little break from my project, but I'm almost done, and I just have a couple more finishing touches, add some buttons, and hopefully be done tonight. Fingers crossed if I can take a little break and get back to it. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble about random thoughts and how hard it is to be alive, you know, sometimes. And it's, you know, I sound really depressed or whatever, but I'm good, you know. It's like, it's better. I feel better when I'm honest about how I feel, and honestly talking about it and being like, dang, it can suck sometimes, and addressing the real cause of it and thinking through that, I think, is so productive, and I think it lightens me. Like, I feel lighter now. Not that anyway, I'm chilling. I'm gonna go make some food and get back to work soon. But thanks for watching. Guys, it is Thursday after class. I worked my butt off. I got things done, and I'm now in the line of Chick-fil-A drive-thru waiting for my food. I really was craving a milkshake last night, but they were, like, about to be closed. I feel so much, and I can't be the only one who feels this. I'm sorry my voice did that. I feel so much guilt for buying, and I can't be the only one who feels this. I feel so much guilt for buying food out to, like, make it convenient when I know perfectly well that I bought groceries last weekend. And I will say I generally make my own food, you know what I mean? Like, I will say I generally make my own food. I made my own food for lunch, you know, but I really wanted Chick-fil-A. Mostly just really wanted a milkshake, and I had some points to redeem for like mac and cheese, and I was like, I can't really justify having a milkshake and mac and cheese. I wouldn't feel good afterwards, so I made it into a meal, and I got some nuggets and a salad, but like a side salad. So I feel like there's so much guilt tied to the food that we eat, and I absolutely hate that. Like, I feel guilty that I got chicken nuggets. To be honest, I feel guilty I'm eating out at a fast food place. I feel guilty that I didn't just get one small thing, you know? There's so many layers to the guilt, and it's not even just, like, it's not even just like the fact that I'm here right now doing this. It's that I'm a student and I'm not making my own money, so the money that I'm spending is all money I'm gonna have to pay off sometime. It's like there's layers to it, and I like feel guilty for enjoying things like this because I know that in reality I'm like giving myself a harder thing in the long run. So I just thought I thought I'd share it to be like, I'm doing it anyway, and I'm also doing it to give a little screw you to some of my past eating habits that I would have never have had the meal that I'm about to have because it would have made me so anxious. And so I was getting those creeping thoughts again to justify me not going out and doing this, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. So it is 8 o'clock on Friday night, Good Friday. I watched a little bit of a video. I was gonna go to our Good Friday service with my church, but I wasn't really ready in time, and I finished, get this, 20 letters for asking for money for our mission trip. I set up a whole website and stuff too, but look at that stack, 20 handwritten letters. I don't remember the last time I wrote that much. It was very redundant, lots of the same thing over and over, but I'm gonna be mailing these out today. I wanted to have more time to do things, but this was like the only thing I like needed to get done today. So now I have to go grab some groceries, a couple things, because she doesn't know yet, but my roommate's getting engaged tomorrow. Unless she says no, which I doubt that, but she's getting engaged tomorrow and we have an after party. I'm not worried about saying that on here because I know for a fact these videos are going to come out midsummer probably. So I offered to make lemon bars, which are like a family recipe that I used to make all the time growing up. I don't actually have the original recipe, so I might have to call my mom and have her send it, but we're good. We're good. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna go to the store in a little bit and grab some lemons. And I'm pretty sure that's all I have to buy because we have butter, flour, sugar. So I just need to grab some lemons, and yeah, that's the plan. I also found the weirdest show on Netflix. It's like this little kid's running errands for the first time, and it's so cute. Like, some of these kids are the most adorable human beings, and like this one girl, like, she was supposed to go grab some produce from like her grandma's garden, and the grandma had already picked some for her to grab and left them in the shed, and the girl thought she had to get the cabbage herself, and she stood there for 30 minutes twisting the cabbage. I was like, that is what I would do as a kid. I would do that. I just ignorant. Just it was so cute though because she was putting in max effort. It was so cute, and like that video is probably my favorite. I was like, wow, I feel so inspired to like go run errands, and like it was so cute because like you see the little kids and they're just like so nervous about doing all these things for the first time, but they're doing them, you know? It's like, dang, I can go run errands. I'm gonna go drop off these letters and hope that somebody's just proud of me at the end of it. Because like really like we should be more proud of ourselves for like all these little things that we do and we take for granted. I can do all this stuff by myself, you know? So one, thank my parents, but also two, I'm proud of myself, you know? I also got dressed like nice, and I'm not going anywhere. So I did that for me. This morning I was planning to go to a coffee shop where I keep running into like this. It's not even just at the coffee shop. I keep running into this one random person, and I was just curious if they'd be there today. But I'm gonna go tomorrow, and I'm gonna see if they're there tomorrow. I fully don't expect to see this person again because it was one of those weird coincidences where you're just like, you're a person. Because like they're one of those people that like I noticed right away. I was like, dang, that's a really attractive person. And that, dang, I'm seeing that person another time in another random place. That's interesting. And like, dang. So like I saw them randomly at 3 different times, and I'm just like, I need to just go introduce myself or say anything to this person just for the sheer fact that it's really funny that I've run into them that many times. I don't know what I would say. Like, hi. Don't know why this happened. But anyway, so I was gonna do things today. Basically just went for a run this morning, took a shower.
and wrote these the whole afternoon. The whole stinking afternoon. Yeah, very productive day. Honestly, I'm proud of this. Got that done. Um, I am hoping tomorrow to get started on some sketching for my capstone and start my slides. It's really bad how much I've procrastinated on my slides. Yeah, pretty bad, but at least I have a rough outline done. I'll probably definitely be revising it a whole lot, but it is what it is. So, but for tonight, because it's Good Friday, I wanted to record something really fast, but as in what I'm doing right now, I don't mean something else. And then hopefully take a pretty chill evening and like really come back to meditating on scripture and like focusing on connecting with God. I'm it'll be good having like a chill night without being just entertained to death because I've been so entertained. I've been so entertained that I haven't really been present. I haven't really been myself. And it's easy, right? Like it's so easy. They set these things up so that you just waste so much time. But I just wish that I didn't feel so guilty afterwards. Like I wish I wasn't beating myself up for falling into the traps built by these apps that I make it sound like I have a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying they're made to be addictive. It makes sense we get addicted to them. So I shouldn't be beating myself up, but I should definitely also be setting in some timers and controls so that I'm not wasting so much time. But I listened to one of the ladies in my church has this cool podcast, so I listened to that while I was writing these notes. And I feel like it's hard sometimes for me to, while I've been a Christian, my whole life, it can be hard sometimes to really remember, like, oh, this is mine. Like, this is something I believe. It's not something that I watch other people talk about. And while there's a lot of Christianity that I don't think is right, like, there's a lot of things about extremely, like, fundamentalist or, like, extremely conservative views that I personally don't hold, that doesn't make my Christianity like watered down or less meaningful or less valuable or less real, And it can be hard sometimes when I'm kind of feeling alone in that because when you're on the internet, when you're on any sort of like there's always the extremes. There's always the 100% or 0% mentality. And while I think that absolutely like you're either in or out as far as like if you believe in what the Christian doctrine teaches, which is like that idea that idea. I always talk this way. It just feels weird to say it with relation to things that I genuinely care so much about and believe in. That teaching that Jesus was a God made man and died for our sins. Like that is the fundamental, like that's what you have to believe. That the rest can fall into like a little bit of application or how you read it. There's some parts of Christianity that are definitely open to interpretation. And I definitely think that there's things that in my walk are probably a little too loose, a little too casual. There's also things that I honestly believe people take their political and other perspectives and just slap a Christian label on it and seek ways to confirm their own viewpoints from that perspective in scripture. So I definitely think there's like, definitely sides to both. But I don't know why I got on that that tangent, except to say that like it was good today to listen to the podcast that I did because I think so much of my own view of Christianity can definitely be skewed by my own life experiences. And when things don't settle in right for me, like it can be hard for me to sit through that teaching or sit through that lesson because I don't feel like they're being respectful or kind. But it was really helpful to sit through those and listen because they genuinely had a good perspective to give, And I honestly, it's not that the truth is ever void, like I think that there's always going to be something, right? Something that resonates.
even if it's completely out there teaching, like you can find something in that speaks to you. You can find something in it that's true, even if you don't agree with everything else. There should always be some grain of truth if you can sink into it and seek it out. But it's cool when you can just listen more comfortably, I guess, when something is just a little bit more, wow, this makes sense. I actually do agree with you on most of these things, instead of having to overcome that hurdle in my own mind that doesn't want to listen, doesn't want to sit through it. So I really appreciate that, and they're really, really good podcasts, and we'll definitely check it out. I think it's called, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's Made New. It's something like that, but I will, if I remember to do it, because it's going to be in a long time from now. If I remember, I will be putting the link for her podcast down below. She just finished the first season, and I think she's coming back with the second season in the fall. It's my friend Myra and her friend Candace. So check it out if you want to, and I'll catch you guys later. Hey, here they come. Hey, I don't even know how.
Mrs. Gerber. Ladies and gentlemen. Watch out, watch out. Oh!